So now let's move on to a little bit more about what big data is and what it is not. I'll start with what it is. So I alluded to it earlier, but it's unstructured for the most part. These are documents that are stored, they are videos, images, all kinds of different data types and structures that don't fit in nice and neatly into rows and columns like a relational schema. Big data systems are petabytes in scale. It isn't uncommon to see a data warehouse that is 10 or more petabytes, and some of the largest ones in the world have eclipsed 250 petabytes now. Think about companies like Facebook and Google that just store massive amounts of information constantly 24/7 around the world for their billions of users. They need a way to analyze that data and to store it, and these systems are the way that they've chosen. Now, big data systems, I contend, are the evolution of the relational database management system. These are new ways of storing data that allow for much greater flexibility and much more scalability. They do pose new challenges, but I believe these are just challenges temporarily as we evolve into a much more mature solution down the road. Now, big data systems are not a single thing. There are many different types, many different platforms, and even within those, there are many different tools and technologies. And lastly, they are quite difficult to use for analytics. The types of questions you ask are often have to be phrased differently, and the speed at which you're used to getting the answer also has to be adjusted. When you're talking about petabytes of information, if you wanted to look at something that's an average by week of sales, let's say, and it were stored in a system like this, you could be waiting minutes or hours to get that back. And that's really what this course is about, is to try to help understand how to frame those questions and how to get that data out so you can do the speed of thought type of analysis where you can continue to ask questions as you find new answers and new information. So we'll talk about what big data systems are not. For the most part, they're non-transactional. There are some systems that support transactional type models, but for things that you're used to in a relational database world, such as an ACID transaction, something that's persistent, it's not as common to see that in the big data world, simply because the amount of transactions occurring really force this to be non-transactional in nature. They're not simple or easy. There's no system out there that is a 5-click install and everything is up and running. I will put the caveat on that some of the cloud big data sources are enabling it to be simpler and easier, but you're paying for it in the end anyways. They're not really much in the way of a structured data warehouse. These systems, since they are mostly unstructured, don't really support typical data marts and dimensional modeling techniques that you'd be used to in a relational database world. They're not just a single platform. As I alluded to earlier, they are many things. So there are many different platforms and tools and technologies at play here, which also increase in the complexity of managing them. Mostly, this is a necessity for a lot of companies that accumulate big data, much less of a desired choice or direction to go. And they're not very easy or fast for analytics.